Hello and welcome back to Copic in the Craft Room. We are going to be looking at coloring hair in 4 different ways today. We're working on a Stamp Anything image. This is one I got from her shop, and I love her images for skin and hair just because they've got these nice big open faces and tend to have just enough detail in the hair to make it easy to see which direction to do my flicking, but not so much that I'm having to spend hours and hours working into some of those tiny details. So I picked one of the images out, and on this particular one, I'm going to leave the top portion of her head as if she was wearing a hat. Now I'm going to use the same 4 markers in all 4 images. And this number 1 image, I'm working from dark to light. So I've started with my E27. I am flicking from the part outward and the top, like underneath her, behind her head down, and then I'm also working from the tips upward. So you go in opposition. Notice I'm holding my marker very vertical to the page or perpendicular to the page. So I'm working way up on top of the tip of that marker. Get a little closer so you can see better. Now I've switched to my E25. There's going to be more strokes with the E25. As I get lighter, I'll have a few more strokes of each of these colors. And what I'm doing, I'm coming in, I work right on top of the E27. Some of these flicks might be a little bit longer. Some could be a little bit shorter. E23 is next. Again, this is closing in on that center area, so a few more flicks. Again, they're starting from those same starting points. Notice that the hair behind her face is considerably darker. It's the hair that falls behind her shoulders. That will be darker on people. The last color is an E21. Now I'm going to go ahead and fill that highlight area. So it does enclose the white. You don't see the white anymore. What this also does though is it softens the edges of all of those sharp flicks, and so I don't have a lot of striping shown. Now I can go back and add some dark back in. I felt like the hair behind her shoulders wasn't quite dark enough. I really want that to look like it's falling behind her. And that darkest color is going to push that back and kind of separate out some of those colors. But I'm pretty happy with that. Because I worked from dark to light, I don't need to do a lot of blending. Now I'm going to do the exact same series of colors, but I'm going to work from light to dark. So what I'm doing to start is I'm actually filling the hair in or basing the hair with my E21 because I'm not leaving white on this one. I'm pretty much filling most of it in. The only section I didn't was that hair that's falling behind her shoulders because again, that's going to get the darkest. Then I come in with my E23 and I'm starting right away with those flicks. The E23 is going to have the most flicks because it's the lightest of the colors that I'm flicking with. Again, working the same directional kind of focus that I had before, from the part outward, from the tips upward, same thing. With the E25, I'm going even less. But again, same areas you can see because the other one is sitting right beside it, that the coloring is going to be about the same. The finished appearance will be very similar. This will have a little bit darker feel or warmer feel because of that base coat of that lightest color when I'm finished. But you're still going to see the texture, you're still going to see the warmth. It's going to have about the same value range. E27 is next, fewest flicks here. I really have lessened the number of flicks. They still extend different lengths from each of those spots. So some are short, some are longer. A lot more dark happening behind her shoulders, around her neck, so that that area pushes back. Now when I try to do some blending, sometimes I'll skip a color, but this time because I only have those 4 markers, I'm coming back in with just a touch of the E25. And really all I'm trying to do is to soften some of those E27s, kind of smooth out that area behind her shoulders because it's got some pretty distinct striping there. And that's really it. I'm pretty happy. I'm going to add just a touch of that E23 again to soften some of those ends. So you can see when I start from light to dark, I tend to have to go back with 1 or 2 colors just to do a little bit of softening. Now the third technique I'm going to do is blending smooth. Now again, I could go dark to light or light to dark, but I'm trying to give you just a kind of a quick overview of 4 styles of coloring hair. So I'm starting with my light color, and I'm starting with that E21. Again, doing pretty much a base coat. And then I'm using a broader stroke or a broader flick. So you can see I'm not working way up on the tip. The flicks are much broader, even right from the get-go with that E23. It's more that I'm adding form to those waves versus thinking about adding texture. So I'm thinking more in terms of form versus texture when I do more of a smooth blend with hair. So I'm looking at those sections, trying to leave a little bit of a light highlight on some of those sections so we can see where they separate. The E25, again, it's a broader flick. It comes right down the center of some of those sections, because really all I'm trying to do is kind of separate those out so you can see the flow of hair. It's just a whole different focus. It's kind of a different mindset. I'm not seeing the texture as much as I'm seeing the shape. The last color is that E27, and again, right down the center, a little bit shorter. It doesn't go as far, but I'm still keeping the dark areas in the same place. The darkest area is going to be behind her shoulders, right next to her neck, because I want to push that back. It's the furthest back part of her hair that we see. This time I'm going to go back through each one of my colors. So I go back to that E25, work over the E27 and pulling it out into those lighter colors. E23 is next, again, smoothing out those edges, leaving those lighter highlights against the edges of those sections so you can see that form. E21, and again, I'm focusing on the edges of those sections so that those stay a little bit lighter. And we can see kind of that ripple of hair, the flow of hair. But it has a nice smooth blend to it. And for some people, this feels a lot better. That's the look they're going for with Copic markers. It doesn't have all of that texture. And it's a perfectly fine way to do hair, just a whole different one. So the other thing you'll see a lot of is people leaving a white highlight. And the biggest reason people do that is that healthy, clean hair tends to have a bright white highlight to it because it's shiny. So a lot of people will actually leave that white highlight showing no matter what color the hair is. I tend to leave a white highlight if I'm doing black hair or super light blonde hair, but you can do it on any color of hair. It's just truly a personal preference of mine. So I'm going to work from dark to light. I've already laid down my E27. Here comes my E25. But if you watch the first one and then this one, you're going to notice I'm leaving a lot more white right from the get-go. There's white, and I'm leaving a bigger, broader area of white right from the start. So E23, and remember I still have that last color to go, so I'm leaving as much white as I can in those highlight areas. I'm still working from the same spots, from the part out, from the tips up. The hair behind her that falls behind her and around her neck is considerably darker, and you wouldn't see a white highlight in the hair that falls behind her. So I can go ahead and enclose that. I don't have to leave the white highlight behind her. But I've left that white highlight to the front of her. I'm coming back a little bit with a couple of my colors just to kind of soften some of those places where I feel like it looks a little stripy. And the last thing I tend to do, if I want to soften the little edges that hit up against the white, is I do one pass with my colorless blender to soften those edges. So here's leaving white and blending smooth. And here's from dark to light on the left and from light to dark on the right. Thank you so much for joining me this week on Copic in the Craft Room. If you want to check out my live teaching and my Copic College weekends, check me out at scrapweaver.com. Again, this adorable image is from Stamp Anything, and she has all sorts of fun images like this that are great for practicing your hair and skin techniques. So I would recommend you checking her out as well. There's tons out there, but this is a fun one to me. I hope you are having a wonderful week and you've had a chance to like my channel so you can get this in your inbox each week. Have a happy, colorful week.